Welcome to She Owns It, the podcast for women building businesses and lives on their terms. I'm Kristen McAllister, and here we talk about what it really means to own our direction, our decisions, and our life at every stage of our growth. Let's dive in. I am joined today with Kristina Hill, founder and chief people partner with Syndicate HR Group. Welcome, Kristina.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
I'm excited to see what comes out today. I really want to jump right in and learn more about what prompted you to start Syndicate HR Group.
Yes, well, it's been a journey. So I started in family office as a fresh grad out of school, and after spending a career in HR leadership within the family office environments, I founded Syndicate HR because I identified that there was this missing element within the family office enterprise structures, and that really is the human element. Um, Growing up, I actually was a part of an enterprising family that had a family office. I didn't know it at the time that I was a part of a family office dynamic, but seeing how my family members interacted with one another and really the importance of having the governance, the conversations, flowing with how we are, working together and getting that alignment. And even in times of conflict when our family was not necessarily getting along, it really affected how business decisions were made. And so at the core, Syndicate HR really focuses on that human element, and we bring that personal approach to our clients. We embed as strategic partners through the life cycle of their family office, whether it's starting from the beginning and helping with formation initiatives, through optimizing their current family businesses and enterprises. Really, again, at its core, to ensure that there is sustainability and that legacy is really defined in a way that meets the needs of the family and the inheritors that are coming in as the next generation leaders.
Okay. You've mentioned family office quite a few times as the starting point, both when you were young and for starting Syndicate HR Group. Can you dive in a little bit more on what is a family office? I can't imagine it's a bunch of people sitting in an office saying, now we work together.
Yes, yes. Well, I would define a family office as a collective business that includes family members who are operating either their own private uh, private businesses. They either share alignment with philanthropic endeavors, or it's a family-owned business that has either a wealth management component or an investment component. So it's managing, really, a family office is managing the ecosystem of a entrepreneurial family or family members, and the goal is to have a cohesive ecosystem built to support not only the business side, but also the personal side of the family, whether that be through family education, again, philanthropy and impact initiatives, or sustainability of family wealth to ensure generational transfer of wealth is sound and lasting for the legacy of the family.
Oh, you grew up in an entrepreneurial family. There was a business that various family members were involved in. That business did so well that out of that, a family office was created to be able to, my understanding, kind of preserve that wealth, create some legacy, and create some additional opportunities for how do we now go do some good with this? What's that
Yes.
like growing up in that environment? Because most, if they grow up in a business, it sells and then, you know, someone retires or something happened. And you're saying, no, we actually existed and the business thrived and we grew up in that. And we created this kind of wealth preservation and wealth management vehicle alongside it.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in the family business was very interesting. I actually started working in the business when I was about 8 years old, and yes, there was one core business which had foundations in real estate. But actually, the family office supported multiple different family initiatives. So my grandparents, they came here to Sacramento in the early 50s,
Wow.
and my grandmother and her siblings, they started a construction company, and through the success of that company, they were able to purchase a basketball team, the Sacramento Kings. They brought them here
Oh,
from Kansas City. And then at that point, when they became a sports team's owner, that really facilitated how the family showed up both within the community and had to really formalize the way of working together because it wasn't just one family unit, let's say my grandmother and grandfather and our side of the family, but it was cousins, uncles, aunts, everyone, starting to have children who then came into the business and wanted to go off on their own and do their kind of own thing, but they're at the core, again, the family office was really created to help with the administrative components of managing all of the different uh, family business ventures. And as I was growing up in this dynamic, there was always you got to call so and so at the family office to, figure out what I needed for my car insurance, or I couldn't find my health insurance card. I had to call so and so. And it was like there was also this level of, I guess, stewardship of, and let's see, how do I want to put this? There was a responsibility that was bestowed on us, even as young children, that we were a part of something greater and that whatever we did outside of the family home actually affected the family and the family businesses. And um, it was a large responsibility that the family office really on um, took on to make sure that they were stewarding us as children and making sure that we were aware of the responsibilities that we had in our adolescence, through our teenage years, through our, going off to college and making decisions of whether we wanted to come back and work in the business or do our own thing. And at times it was really challenging to feel like you could have the freedom to, you know, be a young adult and uh, I didn't realize that I wasn't having a traditional childhood until later on in life, working in various family office environments. That, wow, what I experienced growing up is very similar to what these businesses have to deal with family members working inside them. And how do the employees that work within those businesses really be successful at supporting not only the traditional business needs, but also the complex family dynamics that often come up and influence how successful the business can be.
it's incredible as you're describing. I'm picturing this air traffic control as the
Yes.
family trying to air traffic control. It, these aren't planes with radars and coordinates. These are people with lives and emotions. And teenage years are hard enough. You remember, I remember what those are like. That is hard enough growing up as a teenager. Growing up as a teenager with those responsibilities, you've not just experienced it from the air traffic control tower, which is what you do now with other families and family offices. You were on the inside and part of that, all that connection, that everything you did influenced something else. It wasn't just yours to
Yeah.
take on.
Exactly. And I think that's again what I bring to Syndicate HR. That's it's a really unique perspective, and we really try to fill the gap that exists still, where most of these families and family offices, they focus on tax, legal, investment structures, some form of governance, but again, they forget that human element and how important the people are that work within their ecosystems are. And we do weave that human and leadership architecture together through all components of a family office operating model, because they're so often underdeveloped and unrecognized as a critical factor to family legacy success and you know business success.
And you mentioned that all of your cousins, the siblings, had an opportunity to go into the business or go do something else. How did you feel about that choice, and why not go into the family business? Because that's a lot
Yeah.
to that's a there's some risk there, but
Well,
regardless,
now,
to go out on your own.
yeah, yeah. Well, and fortunately, I've come full circle. But how I actually ended up into HR and in operations within a other family office was that after graduating college, I was on my way to law school, and to go to law school and have a law degree was somewhat of your rite of passage in order to come back and work. Getting some real world work experience outside of working within the family. And when I made the decision to not go to law school right after college, it was a challenging moment for me and my family. And I don't think the decision was necessarily supported, and that there was a lot of risk personally that I needed to get comfortable taking, knowing that without following the traditional family expectations and path, that I would need to find my own way and my own passions. And for me, that's what excited me about the opportunity. That, um, I knew at the end of the day, my family is my family, and they will be there for me as much as I will be there for them, and I will always have some level of responsibility and influence within our family ecosystem. But it's been a windy journey trying to figure out now as I am preparing to have my first child and realizing after 20 years of building a career and founding Syndicate HR that now I need to come back into the family ecosystem and start to show up in more of a way as a female inheritor and founder. And um, it's exciting, but there's also a lot of challenges ahead that I think are important to apply what I do for my clients to my own personal needs and situation.
As you continue to grow Syndicate HR, and I know the love and the passion, that was kind of your first baby, and now you're going to have the next one, a live, beautiful baby. Are there any decisions that you've made, say, over the past 6 to 9 months that are different than you would have made otherwise?
Um, I would say that I've really taken a look at what it means to be a business owner and have this other side of family responsibility. And I've realized how important it is for me to create a supportive environment for my daughter and ensure that from day one, she knows that she can do anything she wants, that she has our support, that what the she's being born into is um, a great legacy and that there will be some responsibility, but I want her to be able to have her own freedom and to go explore the world and develop her own sense of self and accomplishment. Um, so as I think about my day to day versus, being a mom and being a business owner, I've really tried to, start to find that balance and realize that I need to really um myself first at business owner. And if I am taking care of or I'm taking care of myself first, then naturally all of these other complex components will fall into place.
It's interesting as you lay out how, from your perspective, and how you'll go about it with your daughter versus how the generation before us went about it with us and the generation before that. Have you seen some generational shifts within family office or responsibilities or just, owning a business and raising a child? They all have a lot of complexities to them. Have you seen some shifts or differences?
Absolutely. And I've actually been fortunate to work with a lot of female founders and next gen inheritors. And one thing I've realized consistently, and this is even true for myself, that there is a generational shift happening where, for the first time in history, women are the front runners for inheriting the wealth of their families and these, very complex assets. Yet, similar to myself growing up, there was a uh, there was a dynamic between the men in the family and the women in the family, and the seat at the table didn't always exist for us, even though we were expected to be just as um, a part of the business and expected to make critical business decisions. And I think it comes down to, again, sitting at the table with my family, thinking back of, wow, I'm not necessarily always getting listened to here. My cousins are, who are guys, or um, in my adult career, coming to the family and sitting around an investment committee and realizing I have to work a little bit harder to just be a little bit smarter, to be a little bit more on top of it, to find my voice, because there is a this generational shift happening that's going to have this responsibility for women to steward their wealth. And it's an exciting journey ahead, but we're not always prepared or feel confident in what we know because I was invited to the same party as our male counterparts within our families.
That's such an interesting dynamic. On the dinner table, we think of just family fun, good food, we're getting together. And for you, there was an element, a heavy element of business that goes with that dinner table.
Of course. There's the office boardroom, and then there is that family dinner table conversation, and that's really where the decisions are made. And translating that between what is decided at the table through conversation or actually, making business decisions with some of the key family office staff that would join us sometimes. Um, Often presented some complex challenges because a lot of the decisions were made emotionally, just like sitting around the
Yeah.
table and, having those very real conversations that, you know, you would think would start off well. And then we needed a mediator that we didn't have at the table. And then going into the office on a Monday morning and trying to figure out, well, really what was decided on, how do we explain the decisions that were made or not made? And it could be difficult for, at least I've seen it difficult for the clients that I work with. Very similarly, they do have those dinner table conversations, and yet they're not getting translated into the business. And so there's a fracture between the business needs, the decisions that have to be made consistently and aligned, and what the family is truly willing to agree on and navigate through.
And you've mentioned the word governance a couple of times where it's easy to think, well, we really don't need a governing body here. That's a lot to go through. And as you talk through the dynamics and all the elements, that go into it, you can start to see that governance is another way of no, our systems, our processes, how we get to agreements.
Yes,
And I can see why you are so amazing at that, and where that's usually where you start is we've got to have I don't want to say rules of engagement, but we've got to be working off of uh, the same systems and processes, the same architecture.
exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about finding that continuity and preparing for inflection points of transition or succession or growth or downsizing of a business. And wealth can only be preserved. It can only be grown, and it can only be utilized if the structures in place can evolve with the needs of how you want to deploy that wealth or use it for philanthropic and impact purposes. So the importance of governance is really about creating alignment and frameworks that are the guide rails or guardrails
Yeah.
to sustain the family legacy, um, either for leadership alignment or um, reinforcing the family dynamics of trust and confidence that the next gen is prepared to take over what they're inheriting at the end of the day.
To Crowley, you mentioned a little bit ago, you used the word voice. You said my voice wasn't always heard. It just needed to be clear. So I needed to make sure I understood all of the elements so it could be clear. And we see it a lot with, do we need to be the loudest voice? Do we need to be the best voice? Do we need to be the most intelligent voice in the room? Because there's so many voices that are going into that. And you've seen it from your personal experience being one of those voices. You've seen it to shepherding your clients on where their voice needs to be heard and how to support them. And then you're going to be raising a daughter what does her voice need to be, or what it should be, or what do you want it to be? What's your advice when someone is struggling with getting their voice heard, whether it's with a family dynamic or as an owner? Even as an owner, sometimes we struggle that because it's easy to let the other voices be heard rather than your own.
Mm.
What's some advice
Yeah,
you'd give?
I think first and foremost, it's very important to take a step back and to pause and to get out a piece of pen and paper and start to write down what are you really trying to accomplish? What are your values? What are your belief systems? What are your goals? Why are you feeling like you are unable to get your point across or convey what you want? Um, and as you go through that exercise, you start to realize, well, this is really important to me, or this area is really important to me, or oh, this is why I'm struggling. I can't seem to get along with my husband, my uncle, my grandmother, my cousin who's within the business. We actually don't necessarily share the same values or belief systems. And if you're able to identify those kind of foundational principles for yourself and what motivates you, what drives you, and why you want your voice to be heard, then you can start to unpack, okay, how do I become more successful? How do I change how I'm maybe communicating with this person because I've now realized that we come from two different sides of the table, or we actually want the same thing. If you're thinking about the family dynamics and you realize, wow, I'm actually very aligned with where my family is headed and the decisions that are being made, but I didn't really even realize it until I sat down and really kind of mapped it out. So I would say that's really the most important to kind of start. Secondly, it is to find um, a strategic advisor that you can trust, who can be a mirror and sounding board for you, who can um, support you, your be someone who can be a mentor, be someone who can be a strategic thinker alongside of you, and help you navigate your blind spots. And that's also a very challenging piece to find is the right advisory firm or consultant who really understands how to ask the right questions and pull it out from these founders or individuals. And again, that's I feel like what I'm able to do successfully is sit down at a dinner table type setting and, start asking, well, why do you feel like you're unable to make sound decisions? Or why do you feel like your voice is not being heard? Is it because you are unsure about, you don't trust your own decision making? Are you being, stopped by your family member, or the business is unable to make decisions because there's lack of clarity about what the business mandates are and where we're headed? Or is it simply that you're a new family leader and you weren't necessarily expecting to be in a position of leading a business or a family enterprise, and all of a sudden you're thrust into this position with a lot of responsibility, and everyone is looking to you for that leadership and uh, direction, and yet you weren't even prepared yourself. So it's again taking that step back and really figuring out, how do we want this to look so that you, as the founder of a business or inheritor of a family enterprise, um, can do it with sustainability and confidence that the leadership can happen in the way that you want it to.
That's incredible. I love that you hit on that last element of it because I see a lot with founder led businesses as the leader. A lot of times, the most powerful thing you can do is sit back and listen and not be the one leading, understanding and unpacking the various elements and understanding where is everyone coming from. And at that point, your voice needs to be the quietest so that you can hear everyone in the room, including those who probably are used to being quiet, used to not being heard, and you're able to pull them out. You mentioned success and what that looks like for within family office and for some of your clients. What does success look like for you?
Mm. I would say success for me looks like the ability to balance the invisible work. And that is the making decisions on, how do I want to show up as an owner? What days are my strategic days? What days are my operational days? What days do I need to leave the business where it's at and be a mom or a wife or a friend, and be okay separating out those two things? Um, I would say that I am in the process of developing my own success model as a women own a woman who owns a business and is also a part of this very unique family office environment and family dynamics. Um, and looking back, maybe even in 6 months to a year, I would say that success would also be that I have been able to kind of map out my own playbook,
Mhm.
and that I am able to be I'm able to show myself that I can consistently balance um, both personal and work life, um, because it's a necessity for um, really being successful at both sides of my life. And I need to do it with discipline.
And not to put any pressure on you, Christina, little ones watch everything we do. They end up as that mirror image. And someone once said to me, um, don't tell them how to be, show them how to be. And they
Exactly.
will emulate that. And I've always volunteered that when you have those moments on the floor, curled up in a ball, you just need to dial my number. You don't need to say anything. Just put it on speaker, and I'm going to know exactly what to do. Just be there to listen, because sometimes we just need to be listened to in
Yeah,
all of our glory and all of our mess.
completely. And to take this full circle with the analogy of being an air traffic controller, it's important to put your mask on first before you assist others.
Amen.
And that is definitely a adage that I'm taking into this next phase of my life, because I often put the air mask on for everyone else. And by the time I am running out of air, I cannot find my own masks. So to really, I think, be a successful founder of a business and a successful mom, and to set the right example for my daughter, it would be to put your air mask on first and then assist everyone else. Because if I'm able to breathe, then everyone else can be taken care of, and it just falls into place.
So, is there anything that you wish someone would have told you back when you were first starting off, starting your business, deciding all that goes along with it? Is there something that you thought, God, why didn't anyone tell me this? Would have been a whole lot easier if someone would have told me. What would that be?
To be successful does not mean you need to be perfect. Um, a lot of times I have uh, been stuck on my own, let's say, hill, because I am trying to drive and that can be the inhibiting factor to success. And so now I am trying to um, get comfortable with, sometimes you just need to start, jump in, take the risk, figure it out as you go. And sometimes that yield, or not sometimes, it does yield the best results. I'm finding that, you could be successful, and it doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. And I think that's also so important as a female business owner and mom, that it's about showing up, it's about being steady, it's about having confidence in your own intuition and gut feelings, and following that first and foremost. And as you take risks, as you go through trial and error and you learn from mistakes, that's really where it's found. Uh, and if you get stuck in, this needs to be perfect in order for me to execute on whatever it may be, sometimes you can get lost in that, and you don't actually realize the magic that can be found and created by just leaping forward and seeing where it goes.
And
Sure.
I have no doubt it is going to be nothing but success in your future. As we wrap up, I'm going to go through a couple things. I'll start it and you end it with the first thing that pops into your mind. We'll call it the lightning round.
Right.
Capacity comes from,
Capacity comes from knowing your limits,
and I love it. How about ownership is?
holding responsibility,
One thing I wish more owners knew is,
being a great leader means showing up every day, not being perfect, but being steady, consistent, and leading with your heart.
right now I'm owning.
True to myself, follow my intuition.
It never fails. Kristina, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for joining me on She Owns It. If today sparked a new idea, it gave you something to take action on, don't let it sit. Share it, use it, and keep growing. Until next time, keep leading with clarity and confidence. And thank you, Kristina, for setting the example and sharing those ups, those downs. It's never a straight path out there. I have no doubt that there's a lot of golden nuggets to learn from. Thank you.
Thank you.
If today's conversation resonated, share this episode with a woman who's building something she cares about deeply. Remember to subscribe and like the episodes that resonate most with you. Until next time, keep owning your choices, your direction, and your definition of success. I'm Kristen McAllister. Thank you for listening.